everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Get Sharp. Joe Fortenbaugh and our man Todd Fuhrman.
Good to see you again, Joe.
Good to see you again, Mr. Fuhrman, Senior Race and Sports Analyst for Caesars Entertainment. Today we switched up the venue a little bit as we're going to bring you the Thursday night spectacular. Todd's been prepping all week for this one. We're at the Rio All-Suite Hotel and Casino. Rio All-Suite Hotel and Casino.
That's quite the mouthful. I'm impressed that you didn't stumble over it all. You got it all out there. You gave us our due diligence.
I actually have had quite a good time here in the past. When I was in law school, I used to come to the Rio quite a few times. We're not going to get into any of the details on any of those trips, but we did have some fun. And we're back today to talk about the 4-4 Oakland Raiders against the 4-4 San Diego Chargers. First Thursday night game of the year, 8:30 on the NFL Network. You take a look at this game, two teams reeling right now. Oakland's lost back-to-back games. San Diego's lost 3 straight. So right now, with the AFC West being a bit wide open, this is a game that a must-win at this situation.
I think when you talk about this game, Joe, the biggest thing is which quarterback won't throw a pick six. Carson Palmer and Phillip Rivers have both been walking disasters. When you talk about their interception to touchdown ratio over the last few weeks, Rivers threw a couple touchdowns in garbage time, which made the numbers look a little bit better. When you spot a team like the Packers, 14 points, it can get you into quite a bit of trouble. Carson Palmer still doesn't look comfortable in the offense. They're not going to have Darren McFadden. This is a Raiders team that beat the Chargers twice last year. They do have San Diego's number. I think this game will be a little closer than what the experts think.
Raiders have covered 4 straight spreads in this series. Talk about, in your profession, what the short week means with the Thursday game. How does that factor into the line?
The short week always is going to favor the home team. There's no question about it when you talk about advanced preparation. However, with 2 division rivals like this, we're familiar with one another. I don't think the short week plays as big a role as it normally would if you were talking about teams that weren't familiar with systems, hadn't played 2 times a year, every year in the division. So I think you throw a little bit of that out. The travel, negligible up the California coast. However, at the same time, it still is 3 days, 2 teams that are reeling. Sometimes you just want to get back out there and hit somebody.
Game opens -7 for the Chargers, still hanging around -7. What do you see the public doing in this game? It's 2 teams that have been reeling. You look San Diego, you think offense, but at the same time you look at Oakland, you see McFadden's out, but you do see Carson Palmer. Is there support going to be for Oakland, or do you still think people jump on San Diego?
I think a lot of the luster has worn off this Carson Palmer experiment, and we're only 2 weeks in. At the same time, Phillip Rivers has been much maligned by media personnel. Just doesn't look comfortable in the pocket right now, whether that's not having the services of Ryan Matthews week in, week out. Starting to build that chemistry with Antonio Gates again. However, at 7, we've seen great 2-way action. I think people are going to be more inclined to go over the total based on the scores of what they saw last week. Look for these 2 teams to get back to running the football. I think it's a little more defensive-minded than anybody has in their heads.
Interesting point that you bring up on the total, because the game opens 51, it drops 3 points, which is a pretty big move, down to about 48. Are we still seeing movement in that direction? And in addition to that, what's the reason?
We haven't seen these totals in the 50s for probably 3 or 4 weeks now, unless you talk about the Patriots. There have been a high incidence of unders for totals that high. And when you talk about a short week, simplified game plans, that affects the offenses a lot more than the defenses. I think they're going to try and run the football, establish pace and tempo, and try and limit the mistakes that these veteran quarterbacks can make.
Looking to the future, last question. Do either one of these teams win the AFC West?
The Chargers win the AFC West. I think they'll right the ship based on talent alone. I think the Chiefs are pretenders. Denver's been a nice story, but they don't have the same talent to compete. And this Oakland team, unless Carson Palmer finds his stride, they're not going to be there when the dust settles.
There he is, our man Todd Fuhrman. Thank you very much, buddy. Senior Race and Sports Analyst from Caesars Entertainment here at the Rio All-Suite Hotel and Casino. Todd's going to be back on Monday night to preview the Packers and the Vikings. But for now, enjoy the game tonight, everybody.